Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Georgia. I'm a knit and crochet designer, and today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful, extremely chunky, extremely oversized love heart jumper. It's called the giant love heart sweater because the jumper's giant, the love heart's giant, the yarn is giant, everything's giant. It's love, it's a love heart. It's Valentine's Day today. If you're watching this when I'm releasing it. So this jumper is pretty easy. You only need to really know basic knitting skills. It's worked back and forth or like flat. So we work it back and forth on straight needles, or you can work back and forth on circular needles if you prefer. And then you have to seam the pieces together at the end. So I'll leave the size and info on the screen for you now. There are only 4 sizes just because with the heart it was kind of getting a bit complicated, and the pattern that you can download, which I'll leave linked down below, is really detailed for each size. I made the small to medium, and you can see just how big it really is. Like, this would fit a lot of bodies, if that makes sense, so hopefully that's okay. So as I said, I made the small to medium, so you don't need to size up to get the oversized fit because it's designed to be this way. The downloadable pattern has charts to follow. It also has written instructions. It also has a schematic and slightly more size and info, but you should be good to just follow the tutorial. Everything you need to know is in the video. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. I'm editing this now, and in hindsight, you definitely do need to know exactly how to knit and have experience with knitting jumpers before. It's probably more intermediate just because the way that this tutorial is structured is not for complete beginners. I'll also leave the gauge on the screen now for you, which I would really recommend doing a gauge swatch for this one, for all of my patterns, but especially for this one, just because if it's out, then it's going to make a big difference. Like, if you're out by 2 stitches, that's like a lot, basically. So you're going to need some super chunky yarn. I'll leave how much you're going to need approximately on the screen. I used the Hobby Udon yarn as part of the Made with Love campaign. There is a link in the description to this yarn if you want to use it. It's not an affiliate link, but it is tracked so they can see how many people are clicking on the link. I don't get anything from it. And the shade I used was cranberry, but you can substitute for any other super bulky yarn. You just need to make sure you get the correct gauge. Mabel's come to say hello. I'll also leave on the screen the other things that you're going to need. So I used 12mm circular knitting needles for the whole project. You can work back and forth on straight, but then you'll need circular needles for the neckline, or you can use double pointed needles for the neckline. If you don't get the correct gauge with 12mm needles, then you can size up or down accordingly. If you do have any questions throughout the pattern, feel free to leave them in the comments below and I'll get back to you the best I can. Don't forget to tag me on social media if you do end up making it. I would love to see your creation. Like the video if you do enjoy it because it really helps push my channel out there, and subscribe if you want to stick around for more tutorials from me. But without any more babbling, let's get crafting. Okay friends, here we go. So I just thought I'd show you the label of the yarn that I'm using, just in case you need to check anything and compare with any yarn that you're buying. As I said before, I'm using my 12mm needles, but make sure you do a gauge swatch. And then we're going to start off with a slip knot, and we're going to do our cast on stitches. And I'll leave on the screen how many stitches you need to cast on for your size. Once you have your cast on stitches, we're going to start off with the ribbing. So all you need to do is knit 1 stitch and then purl 1 stitch, and do excuse me because it is slow and awkward always for me on the first row, but yeah, this is row 1, so we're just going to knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, and repeat that across. And then you're just going to repeat that for every row until you have a total of 8 rows, and that is for all sizes. Here is what the work should be looking like once you've got your 8 rows, and then now we're going to start the main section of the front panel. So all we're going to do is, for the next row, we're just going to knit across, and we're starting again from row 1 just to avoid any confusion. And then once you've gone all the way across for row 2, you're just going to purl in every stitch across the row. And then once you've done that, you just need to repeat these 2 rows. So knitting 1 row, purling 1 row, and repeating that until your whole work measures however many centimeters it says on the screen for your size. So when you measure your work, that includes the ribbon section as well. Make sure you finish after you've completed a purl row, and I'm just going to leave a note on the screen about knit and purl rows now, but this is what your work should be looking like roughly once you've done that. We're now starting again from row 1, and you're going to have to keep account of the rows, so feel free to add a stitch marker here if you feel like it'll help you. We're getting started on the heart, knit across however many stitches it says on the screen. This is a right side row, by the way, and then once you've done that for all sizes, you're just going to purl 1 stitch and then knit across the rest of the row. Row 2 is a wrong side row. You're going to purl across however many stitches it says on the screen for your size. Then for all sizes, you need to knit the next 3 stitches. And then once you've knit those 3 stitches, you just need to purl the rest of the stitches to the end of the row. Okay, now we have row 3 and we're back to a right side row. So you're going to knit across however many stitches it says on the screen, and then you can see here where we're starting to get the purls, and that's going to be where the heart is. So once you've knit however many it says on the screen, then for all sizes you just need to purl in the next 5 stitches, and then once you've done that you can just knit across to the end of the row. Now we've got row 4, we're back to a wrong side row. We're going to purl in the next however many stitches it says on the screen. Then all sizes need to knit into the next 7 stitches, and this is going to get a little bit repetitive, but obviously that's just the way that the pattern goes, so sorry if you get a bit bored. But yeah, knit in the next 7 and then you can purl across the rest of the row. Now we're on to row 5. This is a right side row. You need to knit across however many stitches it says on the screen. Then all sizes need to purl in the next 9 stitches. You can see the heart starting to form, and then you just need to knit in the rest of the stitches across the row. Once you've finished row 5 and you go on to row 6, which is a wrong side row, I'll leave the instructions on the screen for you. For row 7, we're going to go back to a right side row. We're going to knit across however many it says on the screen for your size. Then for all sizes, you're going to purl in the next 13 stitches. And then once you've done that, you can continue with knit stitches to the end of the row. Once you've completed row 7, you'll go on to row 8, which is a wrong side row, and I'll leave the instructions for that on the screen for you. Now we're going on to row 9, which is a right side row. You're going to knit however many stitches it says on the screen. Then all sizes are going to purl 17, and then once you've done that, you're going to knit to the end of the row. And then I'm also going to leave the instructions for the next row, which is row 10, and it's a wrong side row. I'll leave the info for that one on the screen for you and come back once you've done row 10. Your work should be looking something like this, and we're going to continue to work on the heart. Because it's getting very samey, I'm just going to leave the instructions on the screen for rows 11 and 12, which you should be going on to now. Now the shape of the heart is going to start changing slightly, so going on to row 13, you need to knit across however many it says for your size. Then all sizes are going to purl in the next 23 stitches, and then once you've done those 23 you can knit to the end. Now we've got a wrong side row, which is row 14. You need to purl however many stitches it says on the screen. After you've done that, all sizes are going to knit in the next 25 stitches, and then you can purl across the rest of the row. Now we're going on to row 15, which is a right side row. You're going to knit however many it says on the screen. Then all sizes are going to purl 25 stitches, and then you can knit to the end of the row, and then I'll leave the instructions for row 16 on the screen for you. After row 16, your work should be looking something like this. You can see the heart shape is starting to take form. Next, you've got rows 17 and 18. I'm going to leave all the instructions on the screen for you, so follow along and then come back once you've done that. Okay, we're nearly finished with this kind of repetitive section. So your work should be looking roughly like this. I'm going to leave the instructions for the next 4 rows on the screen and just going to kind of let it play through, let the clips play through, and you can kind of do that in your own time and then come back once you've completed the next 4 rows. So you will have completed row 22. Okay, so now your work should be looking like this. We got the nice angles on the edge of the heart. Okay, so for row 23, a right side row, you're going to knit across however many it says on the screen. Then you're going to purl 33 stitches, that's for all sizes, and then you'll knit across to the end of the row. I'll then leave the instructions on the screen for row 24. And then once you've completed row 24, you'll then need to repeat rows 23 and 24 2 more times. So rows 25 to 28 will be repeats of rows 23 and 24, but I will leave all the info on the screen. Here is what your heart should be roughly looking like. That's the wrong side. This is the right side. Now we're going to start shaping the top of the heart. First of all, you need to knit along however many stitches it says on the screen for your size. Once you've done that, all sizes need to do 16 purl stitches. After the 16 purl stitches, which you can see I've got on my needles just there, we're all going to do 1 knit stitch. So that's for every size. Then do 16 more purl stitches for every size, and then once you've done those 16 purl stitches, just knit across to the end. Now we're going on to row 30, which is a wrong side row. You're going to purl however many stitches it says on the screen. Then all sizes are going to knit the next 15 stitches. After you've done those 15 knit stitches, we're going to do 1 purl stitch for all sizes, so it's in the same spot where we did the knit stitch in the previous row. Then all sizes need to knit the next 15 stitches, and then you'll purl the last lot of stitches to the end of the row. Now we're going on to row 31, which is a right side row. You're going to knit however many stitches it says on the screen for your size, and then all sizes need to purl the next 14 stitches. Now we're going to knit the next 3 stitches, that's for all sizes. Then once you've done those 3 knit stitches, you're going to purl the next 14 stitches, again that's for all sizes. And then once you've done those 14 purls, you just need to knit across to the end of the row. Next we've got row 32, which is a wrong side row. You're going to purl across however many stitches it says on the screen. And then once you've done that, you all need to knit the next 13 stitches. That's for all sizes. After you've done that, all sizes are going to purl the next 3 stitches. Then once you've done those 3 purls, you're going to knit the next 13 and then just purl along to the end once you've done those 13 knit stitches. That's for all sizes. Here's what my progress looks like so far, and you can see we're starting to get that little V shape in the middle of the heart there. And we're also starting to decrease on those outer edges, not decrease the amount of stitches, but decrease the heart shape, if that makes sense. So now we've got row 33, which is a right side row. We're going to knit across however many stitches it says on the screen. Then all sizes are going to purl the next 12 stitches after that. Then once you've done those 12 purl stitches, all sizes need to knit the next 5 stitches. After that, all sizes will purl 12 stitches, and then all sizes will just knit across to the end of the row. Now we have row 34, we're nearly there. This is a wrong side row. Purl along however many stitches it says on the screen. Then all sizes are going to knit in the next 11 stitches. Then all sizes will purl 5. All sizes will then knit 11, and then all sizes will purl across to the end of the row. So now we've got row 35, which is a right side row. You need to knit along however many stitches it says on the screen. Then all sizes are going to do 10 purl stitches. Then all sizes are going to do 7 knit stitches, followed by 10 more purl stitches, and then you'll knit across to the end of the row. Now we have row 36, which is a wrong side row. You're going to purl however many stitches it says on the screen. Then all sizes are going to do 9 knit stitches, followed by 7 purl stitches. Then after that, all sizes will do another 9 knit stitches and then purl to the end of the row. Okay, so we've only got 4 rows left of the heart, and then things get much simpler. So we're now going on to row 37, which is a right side row. Knit across however many it says on the screen. Then all sizes are going to purl the next 8 stitches. Then after that, all sizes are going to knit the next 9. Then all sizes will purl the next 8. And then you will knit across to the end of the row. We're now on to row 38, which is a wrong side row. You're going to purl however many stitches it says on the screen for your size. Then for this one, you're going to knit into the next 7 stitches for all sizes. Then after that, all sizes will purl into the next 9 stitches. And then again, you will knit into the next 7 and then purl across to the end of the row. And then after that, you'll have 2 more rows to go. I am just going to leave the instructions for rows 39 and 40 all on the screen for you, and then the heart is finally complete. Okay, well done. We've finally done with the heart. So now for all sizes, you just need to knit across the whole row. And then back onto the wrong side, we're just going to purl across the whole row. And then once you've purled across the whole row, you just need to do those 2 rows once more. So you knit across and purl across again. So since we finished the heart, you'll have done 4 rows, if that makes sense. Okay, so this is roughly what your work should be looking like. And now we're going to separate for the shoulders and do the shoulder shaping. So first of all, you need to knit along however many stitches it says to do for your size. Once you've done those stitches, we're going to do some bind off stitches. So I'll leave on the screen how many you need to bind off for your size. Just make sure before you start binding off that you are doing an extra 2 knit stitches. So you've done your knit stitches across that we did before, and then before you start binding off you need to knit 2 more. Then you bind off, knit 1, bind off, knit 1, bind off, knit 1, bind off, until you've done however many it says to do on the screen. So there are my bind off stitches just there, and then I'm going to just knit across to the end of the row. Okay, so after you finish that, your bind off stitches will be in the middle there. These stitches can just stay where they are on the needles for now, and we're just going to work on this one shoulder. So we're starting again from row 1, and this is row 1 of the shoulder shaping, and it's a wrong side row. So you're just going to purl across until you have 2 stitches remaining. That's for all sizes. And then with those last 2 stitches, you're just going to purl 2 together. So you just insert the right needle purlwise into both the stitches and then purl them like you normally would. And now we've decreased by 1 stitch, so I'll leave on the screen how many stitches you should have left for this shoulder. Now it's row 2 of the shoulder shaping section, which is a right side row. So we're going to do a slip slip knit, A slip knit is where you slip 2 stitches from the left needle onto the right needle, then you insert the left needle into the front of those 2 stitches on the right needle, wrap the yarn around and then knit them as normal, and that is 1 decrease. And then you're going to knit across to the end of the row. I'll leave on the screen how many stitches you should have left after row 2 of the shoulder shaping section. For row 3, it's a wrong side row. You're going to purl across until you have 2 stitches left. And then as you did before, you're just going to purl those 2 stitches together. This is how many stitches you should now left have on this shoulder. Now we're going on to row 4. You can see we've got a nice steady slanted edge there. I can't get my words out today. Row 4 is a right side row. We're just going to knit across the row, so no more decreases. And then once you've done that, you're just going to bind off. I like to bind off in purl stitches just because we're on the wrong side, and I think it looks nicer that way and it's easier to seam at the end, but it is completely up to you. But yeah, just bind off for that shoulder and then we're going to go on to the other shoulder. Cut the yarn and just fasten it into place. So there's the first shoulder shaping section done, and now we're going to go on to this shoulder. So you need to have it so that the wrong side is facing. Row 1, we're going to start off with a slip purl. So I'm just slipping off the first 2 stitches purl wise, and then the stitches, at least mine, are a little bit tight, so this is a bit awkward, but the left needle goes into the back of both of them stitches, and then just grab your yarn and wrap it around as though you were going to purl, but obviously the yarn isn't joined to the project yet. And then just slip them both off the needles like that. And then you're going to purl across the rest of the row, and I'll leave on the screen how many stitches you should have left on this section. For row 2 of the shoulder shaping section, this is a right side row. You're going to knit along until you have 2 stitches left, and then you're just going to knit those 2 stitches together, and this is how many stitches you should have left after completing this row. And also at this point I do like to just tie into place like the loose end where we started this section to my working yarn, because otherwise I just find it comes loose and stuff. So that's what I just did there. And then going on to row 3 of the shoulder shaping section, this is a wrong side row. We're going to slip purl again, so just slip those 2 stitches of purlwise, insert the left needle into the back of those 2 stitches, which is a bit more easier this time, and then wrap the yarn around and slide those 2 stitches off, and then you just purl across to the end of the row. I'll leave on the screen how many stitches you should now have left, and now for row 4 on the right side, we're just going to knit across the row, and then you just need to bind off. Again, I bound off in purl stitches. You'll then cut the yarn and fasten it into place. Your front panel will be all finished, and then we'll be going on to the back panel. Here is what your front panel should be roughly looking like, and now for the back panel, the instructions are the same except for without the heart. So I'll leave it on the screen so that you haven't got to go back through the video, and then once you've completed the instructions on the screen, come back and we'll do the shoulder shaping. Okay, so we're now going to separate for the shoulders, so knit across however many stitches it says on the screen. Now before we do the bind off stitches, remember you need to knit those extra 2 and then bind off however many stitches it says on the screen. And then once you've done those bind off stitches, just knit across to the end of the row, and then we'll be working on just one shoulder. So we've got row 1 of our shoulder shaping section. We're going to start on the wrong side. So you're going to purl across until you have 2 stitches left. Then just purl those 2 stitches together, and I'll leave on the screen how many stitches you should now have left for this shoulder. We're going on to row 2 of the shoulder section, and this is a right side row. We're going to slip knit. Then you'll just knit across the rest of the row. I'll leave a stitch count for you on the screen, and then after you've done that, you just need to bind off in purl stitches. So I've just cut the yarn and I'm fastening that into place, and I've left a slightly longer tail so that I can use it for the seaming when the time comes. Now we're going to work onto the other shoulder. So here's what it looks like so far. With the wrong side facing, you're going to slip, slip, purl. And remember, it might be a little bit tight again. And just grab your yarn, wrap it round, and then you can fasten that into place now or later if you want to, and then just purl across the rest of the row. Then for row 2 of the shoulder shaping section on this shoulder, you're just going to knit across until you have 2 stitches left. Knit those 2 stitches together, and I'll leave a stitch count on the screen for you, and then all that's left to do is just bind off in purl stitches or however you would prefer, and then you can cut the yarn, fasten it into place, and remember to just leave a bit of a longer tail so you can use it when it comes time to seam. Here's the front and the back panel side by side. The back panel should be slightly longer than the front panel, and now we're going to get started on the sleeves. So again, start off with a slip knot. Cast on however many stitches it says on the screen. Row 1 of the sleeves, all sizes are going to knit across the whole row. This is also a right side row. Then for row 2, this is a wrong side row. All sizes are going to purl across the whole row. Then you're just going to repeat rows 1 and 2, so knit across the right side rows, purl across the wrong side rows until you have a total of however many rows it says on the screen for your size. So obviously, depending on what size you're making, your work should be looking something like this. Now we're going on to the next row, so I'll leave on the screen which row you should be going on to. This is a right side row, and we're going to start doing some decreases. So first of all, you're going to do a slip, slip, knit. And then once you've done that, you're going to knit across the row until you have 2 stitches left. And then with those last 2 stitches, you're just going to knit them both together. So you'll have decreased the amount of stitches you've got by 2. I'll leave a stitch count on the screen for you. Turn your work, and now you're going on to a wrong side row. And all you're going to do for all sizes is purl across the row. Once you've purled across the row, I'll leave the instructions on the screen for the next 2 rows after that, but all you're going to do is just knit across and purl across, so no decreases, but I will leave it on the screen. Okay, so the last 4 rows that we did is the start of a sequence. So I'll leave on the screen which row you should now be going on to, but basically we just did, like, row 1 of the sequence was slip, slip, knit across until 2 stitches are left, and then you knit 2 together. Then we did a purl row, a knit row, and a purl row. So it's 4 rows of a sequence, and we've decreased by 2 stitches, which we did in row 1 of the sequence. All sizes need to repeat that 4 row sequence 4 more times than the one you've just done. So I'll leave all the info that you'll need on the screen, and then come back once you've done that.
Do excuse the state of me, I'm just editing the video, but there is just one row that I didn't record. So once you've done that big section with the 4 row repeats, you should be going on to whatever row it says on the screen. So for example, size extra small should be going on to row 33. So we got one more decrease row. So what you're going to do is slip, slip, knit, and then knit across until 2 stitches remain, and then knit 2 together. This is how many stitches you should then have left on the row. Then you're going to do a wrong side row, and you're just going to purl across.
And then once you've done that, you've got to repeat that 3 more times. It's really confusing to kind of, because of all the different sizes, it's confusing to film it. So I'm just going to leave it on the screen. I really hope that's okay. If you do need help, feel free to comment or email me.
Then we'll go on to the ribbon section, which is coming next. Sorry about the scattiness, but yeah.
Hooray! Now it's time to go on to the ribbing section of the sleeve. I'll leave on the screen which row you should be going on to if that would help you. But all we're going to do is knit 1 stitch, purl 1 stitch, knit 1 stitch, purl 1 stitch. Repeat that across the entire row, and also this should be a right side row. And then once you've done that, you're just going to repeat the ribbing for every row. So knit 1, purl 1 across until you have 8 rows for the ribbing, and your work should look something like this. Then you just need to bind off, and I bound off in knit stitches because this is on the right side, but it's up to you if you want to do it a different way. It just might look and behave slightly different if you do. And then I left a really nice long tail because I used it for the seaming at the end. You're going to need to make a second sleeve in the exact same way, so I'll leave on the screen where you need to go back to repeat the instructions and make another sleeve the exact same. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the seaming portion of the video, and something that I always mention is just to try and take your time with this because it can be the difference between an amazing jumper and a not so amazing jumper. So you want the wrong sides facing up, and then those bind off edges for the shoulders need to be against each other, and you're just going to seam up the shoulders, so one side of the neck and then the other side of the neck with your preferred hand sewing technique, but I'll show you mine. Okay, so you should have the same amount of bind off stitches on each side, so like on the front panel and the back panel, they should line up completely. I have attached a little bit of yarn to my yarn needle just because I can't fit the yarn through the eye of the needle, so that might help you out if you can't fit yours through either. And then I'm literally just going to work my way through each stitch, making sure that I go through the V that's at the top of the stitch where we bound off, and then I'm just going to pull the yarn through into the next stitch, and then the one on the other panel as well, pull through, and it's as easy as that. You're just going to work your way across this shoulder, and then you'll do the same again for the other shoulder. This is roughly what it should look like, and just continue to close up that gap. Once you've done that, you need to lay the work out the same as you did before, but obviously the front and the back panel are now joined, and you still want the wrong side facing up. You're going to grab one of your sleeves and place it on the floor or wherever you're doing it, and you want the wrong side facing up with the sleeve as well, and you're just going to line it up perpendicular to the front and the back panel. You want the center of the sleeve to line up with the shoulder seam that you just created, and then you're just going to seam up this gap here, so you're attaching the sleeve to the main body. You can use stitch markers as well if it helps, and then you need to do the same with the other sleeve and just make sure that they're lined up evenly. After that, you want to lay out the work like this. You still want the wrong side facing out, and you're going to seam from the wrist to the armpit and then down to the hem, and repeat that on both sides. This is what your work will then look like, and you want to turn it so you've got the right side facing out, and we're going to do the neckline. So starting at the middle back of the neckline with the right side facing, you're going to pick up stitches around the neckline, and you're going to just pick up every stitch. I'll leave on the screen how many stitches you want to pick up for your size, but if you haven't got the exact amount of stitches, it's not the end of the world, but obviously try and get as close to it as the number that I've put on the screen as you can. The most important thing though is that you have an even number of stitches. Once you've worked your way around, it's a really good idea to place a stitch marker here so you know where the start of the round is. And then all we're going to do is knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1 around, and then you want to complete that for a total of 5 rounds, and that doesn't include the round where we just picked up the stitches. You need to now do 5 rounds of knit 1, purl 1. Once you've done the 5 rounds, then you can bind off. I bound off in knit stitches because I like the way it looks, and the neck is wide enough to still fit it over your head, but if you want to do a stretchy bind off or a different bind off, then feel free. And then after I cut the yarn, I just make sure I tuck the end into the next stitch along so that it looks more seamless, and then make sure you weave in your ends and you're all done. And that's it, guys. Well done, and thank you so much for following the tutorial and watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Don't forget to tag me on socials with your creations. I would really love to see it. Give the video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, because it really helps my channel and it really helps me to know what you guys like. And subscribe if you want to stick around for more tutorials from me. But that's it from me, so enjoy the rest of your day or night whenever you're watching. Mwah. Oh, and here's a sneak peek for my next tutorial that's coming out very soon, if not already.